Channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari. I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, I've been traveling through time, trying to get to know these amazing women, the filles du roi, the king's daughters, and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them, and today we're doing episode 265. Unbelievable. So before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. Subscribe, like, and notify. It helps my logarithms, all that good stuff. And also, I want to make sure to let you know that on my website, Have Roots Will Travel, you will find an alphabetical index as well as a numerical one where you can easily find the past 264 videos of Les Filles du Roi, and also my Filles Mariées series, the Marriageable Girls, are on there as well. So have a look at that. And with that, let's get started and get to know episode 265. Today's episode is number 265. Her name, Marie Bellehache. And she comes to us from a viewer request. When I looked in my files, sure enough, my very best friend, this is also her great-grandmother as well. So let's get to know Marie a little bit better. Now, Marie was born in Rouen, Normandy in 1652. Her parents were Pierre Bellehache and Marie Burel. Now, Rouen is a city on the River Seine in northern France. It's part of the capital of Normandy, and it's part of the département or county of Seine-Maritime. You can see Rouen right there. Rouen has an amazing historical story and was at one time the largest city in medieval Europe. It played a prominent role in both English and French histories from the 11th to the 15th century. Imagine Joan of Arc was tried and burned alive here in 1431. Rouen is a city of both cultural and educational significance. The Rouen Cathedral, the Notre Dame, is an historic Gothic church, part of which dates back to 1145, and other aspects of which were reconstructed following a fire in 1250. Now, you can just imagine that this is where she would have been baptized, and when it presumably looked quite a bit like this even at that time. So what would have made her come to New France? Well, as so many of the filles du roi that we have studied, her father's death became the catalyst for helping her to say, well, what can I do with my life? And she sailed on the very last ship, September 3rd, 1673, L'Espérance, which means hope. And she carried with her a dowry worth about 200 pounds. Now, the groom that she selected and who would select her, his name, Gilles Bourret de Lepine. He was born in 1642 in Saint-Georges-de-Roubaix in France. His parents were Jacques Bourret and Marie d'Anguy. Now, Saint-Georges-de-Roubaix is a commune in the Normandy region. So look, they're both from that same region. Now, he comes from the region, you can see Manche, which is it's like on the opposite side of the region. The small town, Saint-Georges-de-Roubaix, that he comes from, now has about 500 people. The church dates from the 12th century and was modified by the English during the 100 Years' War. And down below, you can see a picture of how charming this little village would be. We are not certain of when Gilles would have arrived in this country. We believe that it was probably around 1667, but I don't have any concrete proof of that, no census or anything like that. We just know that he was legally entitled. Remember that the people that married Les Filles du Roi had to have land, had to have a home. It wasn't just, you got off the boat and picked a wife. You really had to work for it. So toward that end, on September 9, 1673, so remember, she arrived September 3rd. They were married 6 days later at Charlebourg. So he was ready, he was ready. That's all I got to say. So they would settle in a town called Charlebourg, which today is a borough of Quebec City, but during their time with its own unique and wonderful place. One of the most historic places in the province of Quebec to this day. The origins of Charlebourg begin with the concession of the Seigneurie of Notre-Dame-des-Anges, which is what it was called. The seigneurie was a very large one. It wasn't really, worked or traveled or settled as much as they would have liked. So by 1665, the new intendant of justice, our own Jean Talon, he set out to establish some villages and create really opportunities for people to settle. And what he did, he created 3 towns, and he created a square shape. You can see on the left hand of your screen, Bourg-Royal, Charlebourg, and Petit-Stavanger. All of these are designed in a square-shaped facet, and the square in the middle is the church and where people would gather. So, in other words, all the land, it's like spokes on a wheel or star-shaped, would face the church, creating that sense of community, one would hope. Now, this is a very, very unique setup. Most of the seigneuries before had been established facing the river certainly in a linear fashion. You can see down below, this was an aerial shot taken in the 1960s. It has retained exactly the shape that it was built on. Now, later on in the life of this place, Charlebourg, they would create their own church by 1696, a very modest church. Eventually, this one here in the middle of your screen, this is where Charlebourg, Saint Charles de Borromée Church is found to this day. So this was a lovely, lovely area that is truly a representative of, what Quebec was. And many of the oldest families of Quebec can be found here as well. So definitely worth a trip if you happen to be in Quebec. They would go on to have 9 children. Anne Michel would marry Ignace Leroux de Cardinal and would have 9 children, all of whom made it. Ignace's mother was Marie Renaud, whom we profiled in episode 186. We have Marie and no other information on. Gilles, no other information. Jeanne married André Bernier and had 6 children, 5 of whom made it to adulthood. François married first Anne Paradis and had 1 child who survived. Then he married Marie-Suzanne Proteau and would have another 4 children, all of whom would survive. Marie-Catherine would marry Jean Gérard and would have 9 children, 5 of whom would make it to adulthood. Marie-Anne would marry Jean-Baptiste Proteau and would have 7 children, all of whom would make it to adulthood. Then an unnamed daughter died in infancy. Antoinette would marry Jean-Baptiste Laurent and would have 4 children, all of whom would make it to adulthood. Let's have a look at the 1681 census. We have Gilles and Marie, who are listed. Their children, Anne, Marie, Gilles. Now, interesting, Jeanne is not there. And who else? Now, the other ones hadn't been born yet. So I'm always, whenever I look at a census, I want to know, okay, they're not there for whatever reason. So that kind of is information I tuck in the back of my mind. They have 4 bêtes à cornes, which is 4 horned animals, goats, cows, or bulls, if you will. And then they have 10 alpes-valars, so about 8 acres of land. Marie would pass away first. She was 66 years of age. She and Gilles would have been married a remarkable 45 years. And she would leave us, as of 1729, 91 descendants. Gilles would go on to live another 8 years, dying at the remarkable age of 84. And they are both buried at Charlebourg. And so we come to the end of the story of Marie and Gilles. Wonderful, wonderful couple who were the pioneers at Charlebourg, left us with 91 descendants as of 1729, and were the kind of people who, came to New France, built and thrived and gave it their all. So for that, we thank our wonderful Fille du Roi, and we bless her memory, and we are grateful that she took the chance to come to New France. and be part of history. Thank you so much. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons and supporters. Thank you, and my subscribers. All of you are just immensely, immensely part of my heart. And thank you so much for all the kind words and constructive suggestions and all of that. I think I have such a great community here. So thank you so much to all of you. And with that being said, I will see you on episode 266 of Les Filles du Roi. Until then, au revoir.